What's up, guys? Barry Gaming here, back with some more Idle Heroes, and today we're on a pretty interesting account here. We did the Awakenings on one of their other servers. It was a Cohen's account, but I was kind of snooping around their other servers, and I noticed, well, they actually have one with a giant killer control precision Starwing Jahra, and I was like, this is actually something we've never been able to experience. Is kind of like that mid to late game account where you have like multiple houses kind of built. Looks like Lord of Fear Aspen and both Jahra have a full house, and then we also have some really interesting tenant selections, Transcendence hero selections, and the such. So I'm intrigued to see how this actually performs because I've never personally done it. Looks like we are a Rui Scepter style team. I imagine, yeah, we have the Noble Core here because we do have Destiny Transition on her. But again, we still have a very strong Lord of Fear Aspen. Again, dual CC type heroes. Very interesting. I'm interested to see. We got to 28 here, 27 here. Yeah, 27 seems like it probably the limit with this because if you're going to have a Jahra on your team, you kind of need to have an Azrael as well. Yep, yes, I know. Boss invaded. Hasn't got anything done here, which is not surprising with this type of team. It's not that surprising, but if we take a look here, we're at 4-1, and go figure, the reason why this account is stopped right now is because of a CC wave. And when you're a CC team as well, it doesn't tend to work out that well. I will say the one nice silver lining here is, wow, you got all the monsters, which is cool. The silver lining is the fact that we do have an Elena, which can play a pretty big role here. We could use the core here. It's only a level 2 core on the Aspen, mainly to get some control immunity on our side. But this is a really tough one too because there is the Penny who can do massive amounts of damage, and they all get to go before our entire team, as you can see. And I think even going Rui Scepters is a bad play here because, well, it's gonna have to take to the end of, or after they get to go twice before we get to do anything. And you can see the issue here that we run into is if our team's not going first, you run into a really hard wall. And this is what I wanted to talk about. This is why usually when you get to about chapter 4, the Starwing Jahra method kind of falls off. It becomes much more difficult to deal with. It's just not necessarily a great strategy. It becomes slower, and really the one thing that makes her stand out is the reason why she can get actives off so easily. Even if not in the first round, you can run a Rui Scepter and have her do it in the second round because, again, Rui is a super strong artifact giving control precision and control immunity offset. But again, if you're having to wait till after the enemies do round 2 actives, your team is probably already dead, and that's what you start running into because you'll notice we have a speed setup here, literally full speed, but 2519 is not fast enough to go before the enemy team. The only way you can kind of tweak this as well, you can see this has a full Demon Bell energy feed style setup. It was probably working previous to this. Now it is not. It's going to be an issue. The only thing I could see working is like maybe throwing like a melodic strings on her and hoping she gets a good CC after all the enemies get to go. But the fact that you're stuck on a wave that has like a Penny too, it really makes it more difficult. Now, we do have some other people saying that they just got giant killer giant killer Jahras and such, and that might be really cool to see. But again, it really depends on where you are, and this is why the Starwing Jahra strategy we usually say isn't valid much anymore, because you will very quickly get to chapter 4, you'll get outsped by the enemies, and then you really start to struggle. You need some team composition that's going to let you live long enough, which means Demon Bell strategy does fall off as well, and you're going to need some really good survivability between the heroes and their cores. Something like a core from Scarlet Queen Halora can give tons of survivability. A core from Star Alchemist Holmes Young can give a lot of survivability. But again, it also comes down to the fact that cores of Origins are hard to come by. And if we take a look at these heroes, let's take a look. We got Noble Core, we got none, we got Aspen at the, what is it called, Advanced Core, none on Queen, we have one, the primary on Freya, so we don't have many. And then we also have this Shia, which Shia isn't even a, oh no, she is a tenant. Okay, I was gonna say, I don't think she's a tenant. We do have a ton of Transcendence heroes on this account, which is cool, but again, it might be worthwhile to sell off this A- Jahra and potentially invest in an A- Aspen, and then put all of the power in him as well. Now, this is another comment I'm going to say, is that the tenants aren't strong enough either, in my opinion. You should really hyper focus on one household. There's a lot of power being split between like tenants and like this right here. Like her being a tenant is kind of serving no prop, like nothing here, whereas she could be slotted in right here. Wait, can she? Yeah, she can be slotted into the Aspen, and with her current power level, that gives him a huge stat boost. That does mean that she's going to be slower, not as many stats, but you can see it's not really a house that matters anyway. Same thing with this. The Vesa is a lot of wasted power. You really need to get origin levels on pretty much one or two households and hope that the crossover, like the Scarlet Queen Halora, doesn't need to be over here by herself. Scarlet Queen Halora needs to be right here. Sword Flash, that's what you want to see. You can also, of course, put the Elena here if you want to prioritize the Jahra. And like I said, you just need to really invest in the tenant heroes. Oh, I just realized there's actually 2 queens on this account too. Yeah, you need to power them up, because if you have too much power split, like you see on this account right here, you're going to run into issues where you just don't have enough power. Even if half your team is dead by the time your main 2 to 3 heroes go, that's usually fine, because the 2 to 3 heroes are what really matter. Idle Heroes is about building very tall to a peak with 1 or 2 heroes, especially in the middle game. It's not one of the games that you see out there that a ton of gacha games are, where you build like every single hero in the game. You can use each one of them in a different game mode. Very much just funnel all your power into an individual hero and then a secondary hero and keep building. My account is kind of a good example of how we do that. All of our power in the first house, then more in the second, and then as you go to third and fourth, you can kind of distribute it more, but you need those super overpowered strong heroes, and you're kind of missing out on a lot of stats on the Starwing Jahra. Granted, that does mean more of your team will be slower because they won't have tenants or they won't be householders. But if you can get these heroes stronger, they can survive longer, and just like the duo of Starwing Jahra and Lord of Fear Aspen should be good. Plus you have your tenants like Phantom Defire Elena, still super powered up, but they're tenants, they don't need to be a householder, and same with Scarlet Queen Halora. So hopefully it gives you guys some pointers on if you really do want to make the Starwing Jahra method work, you need to focus, and I'll see you guys next time.